without that happening in a situation like this. We just had that overcast, so those hot fumes come up, that smoke, and then they just lay over the city, especially up in the Hollywood Hills. So if you just tuned in with us, it's a vacant theater that's on fire, according to the fire department, at 1435 North Las Palmas. This fire started, we believe, about 45 minutes ago, maybe 50 minutes ago. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. They have 75 firefighters here. City Fire went to a major emergency, and it looks like the crews on scene will be able to handle. As time goes by here, it also looks like the crews on scene will be able to stop this from spreading to any other structures. Again, there's no wind. It's not extremely hot. That's certainly going to help things out. And we're seeing more and more white smoke come off this. Let's go and go back to the west a little bit. We'll give you a little more perspective on the other side of the fire. And we're looking basically at the east side of the fire. Top of your screen would be to the north. And now in the helicopter, we're moving to the west. And we'll take a look at what the other side looks like. You see the firefighters on top of the roof of the apartment building, making sure the fire doesn't spread to that area. And as you come around here, we'll get a little more perspective. You can see some flames still shooting up from what would be the west end of that apartment building. There's also the threat of the fire spreading to that tree right there, and that is in the backyard of a home. But you can see off of Sunset and over that apartment building, the water cannons get as much water on there as possible, and it looks like the crews on scene will be able to stop this from spreading. But certainly with these types of fires, you never know. You can see a fire and it looks like they're really getting a knockdown, and then all of a sudden it takes off and it starts to spread to another structure. But they have a lot of firefighters here. Let's go ahead and hold it right here. And that gives you a really good shot right there of how many water cannons they are using and just how much water they are throwing on this fire. Pull out a little bit, if you would, Marcel. And I want to show you, that's Sunset on the left side of your screen. And you can see it stopped. You can also see all the traffic. So Sunset in both directions, just to the east side of Highland in Las Palmas, is shut down. And that's going to be shut down for some time. Even after the fire is out, they're going to have to reroute traffic around as they overhaul this blaze. And then they got to look into exactly how this started. Now, when a roof collapses on something like this, we believe it's a vacant theater of some type, firefighters can't get inside. They like to get inside because they like to clear the building. They like to make sure nobody's trapped. There was no one inside. But when it collapses like that, I'm not certain they had the chance to do that before this really took off. We had flames through the roof. We had a portion of the roof that collapsed, and they had to go to this defensive stance, which means there are no firefighters inside right now. It wouldn't be safe for them to attempt that. They just got to put as much water on this as possible, stop it from spreading to any of the other structures or the exposures here, and then they'd be able to get inside. We don't know how the fire started. There was a report that it could have been a previous burn. We haven't been able to confirm that, but we believe the fire crews may have responded to this location before in the past. We don't know how that fire, that previous burn started. We don't have that information yet, but we do know they're putting a lot of water on this, and they should be able to knock it down. I want to give you a wide shot. We certainly don't have any reports of a knockdown, but if you come out really wide, Marcel, it really gives you an idea. You see that smoke laying there. I'll open up even wider if we can, I'm not sure, and tilt up. There's a lot of smoke laying down over the city. So anyone, if you live in Hollywood or you know somebody who does, they're going to smell this. They're going to be aware that there is a fire burning here. It's just all that smoke laid down under the inversion. It just came up, hit some hotter air, and it couldn't go up any higher, and the smoke just laid down over the city, especially up in the Cahuenga Pass and into the Hollywood Hills. So we'll push back in. We do see a lot of white smoke. We don't see the black smoke that we saw when we originally got on scene, so that is certainly a good sign. It looks like as much water as they're putting on this structure here, they should be able to knock it down, I would think, without it spreading to any other structures. It hadn't spread to that tree. Open up and come towards us a little bit, Marcel. I think that's a home there. On the right side of the screen is an apartment building. Certainly firefighters are in position to protect the home. That structure right there in the middle, I'm not certain if that's a part of the house, part of the theater, right on the top of your screen there. That one right there, but it looks like that is suspect, that could go. Firefighters having some access issues. Now they can get to it from this adjacent apartment building on the right, but that's a very narrow walkway there in between the buildings. You have that wall there that basically is a firewall made out of cinder block, and that'll stop it for the most part from spreading. But access has been an issue. They're doing the best they can to get as much water on this as quickly as possible. They did go to a major emergency, which means they'll have 75 firefighters at least on scene. But we'll give you a wide shot once again. Every moment that goes by, the battle looks like the firefighters are winning it. We're seeing this fire slowly but surely start to get knocked down. So good news from here. Just remember, if you're smelling the smoke, it looks like they're going to knock it down. It's a vacant theater, we believe, on fire, but Sunset's going to be shut down even as they overhaul this fire well through the morning. And you can see that Sunset traveling westbound towards the fire where you see the delays there, but it's shut down on the eastbound side all the way back at Highland. But let's look at the fire one more time, see if we see any flames in there. We haven't seen much in the last couple of moments. When we first got on scene, we saw a lot of flames busting through the roof when it collapsed. But look at all the water they're throwing on that fire. It appears to me the firefighters on scene should be able to knock this down. If we get some more information on how this fire started, it's pretty early on. Usually takes a while before we get that. We'll try and get you that information. At this time, no reports of any injuries. That is good news. But entrance teams probably have not got inside that theater and cleared it yet. It's hard to say if anyone may have been trapped in there when the fire started. It's reported as a vacant theater, but sometimes the initial information isn't all that accurate and it has not been confirmed to us yet. But good news from here as far as the battle is concerned. We don't see a lot of flame. There's a little flame there right next to the tree on the right, but it looks like putting so much water on it. There's a lot of fuel once that roof collapsed, and we saw a lot of flame from that originally when it did collapse, but you can see how much water they're pouring on this fire. Hopefully they'll have a knockdown soon. Hopefully we'll be able to report to you that no one was injured, and we're still waiting for some of that information. But this fire basically right in the heart of downtown Hollywood. It came back at 1435 North Las Palmas, which is basically right on Las Palmas, south of Sunset. Sunset once again closed in both directions. And a lot of smoke in this area, but fortunately it's a lot of white smoke right now. We don't see any black smoke to give us the idea there was a lot of fuel in there burning. I think a lot of that fuel's already burned out, but you do see firefighters there next to that car with that live line. They're going to light that up more than likely. They got a lot of water coming out of there just to make sure no embers should spread over towards those cars or get towards the backside of that apartment building there. But all in all, good news. Let's get a wide shot once again, Marcel. And we see more and more of that white smoke. That certainly is encouraging. Again, though, boy, unhealthy air here in Hollywood, especially up in the Hollywood Hills and the Cahuenga Pass. That's where all this smoke really just laid. You're really going to notice this if you are up in the hills. You will certainly notice that. And this is where the fire and the smoke is coming from, right in the heart of downtown Hollywood, basically, just south of Sunset at Las Palmas. So hopefully we'll update you in a bit here with some good news that it's a complete knockdown and no one was injured, trying to get some information on how it started. But a vacant movie theater, or I should say some type of theater, I don't know if it's a movie theater, was the initial call. And certainly if that is the case, it was vacant. Hopefully you would think that no one was inside. You see an ambulance backing up there. There's several ambulances here. That is a precaution as far as we can tell. We haven't heard any reports that anyone has been injured or treated. So that is good news. If it was a vacant theater, then as far as the loss is concerned, it doesn't appear that it's going to displace anyone. It doesn't appear the fire is going to spread to the apartment building. So that is good news. Everything we're seeing is encouraging. We'll try and update you as time goes on here, but every moment that goes by, we're seeing more progress by the fire department, and it does appear they'll be able to stop this from spreading to any structures, any other structures besides the initial one, and it does appear they're going to get a knockdown here sometime soon. So we'll keep this signal up for you. You can watch the progress of the firefighters getting a handle on this fire here in Hollywood, or so it would seem. And if that changes, certainly we'll update you. But once again, a lot of smoke in Hollywood. That's the first thing we noticed when we flew in. We had to try and go around this smoke. It just laid underneath that marine layer, that inversion layer we have, and that's why all that smoke is sort of laying down over the city. So a lot of people will be affected. If you have breathing issues, asthma, things like that, it really be a problem. There's a lot of ash. There's a lot of smoke in the Hollywood area. So we'll keep you updated, but it appears the firefighters have it surrounded. And we would hope the next time we come to you and give you an update, it'll be a complete knockdown. Thank you. All right, copy that. Thank you. So we have, if you're still with us here, we're covering this fire in Hollywood. We got some new information, and I want to give you a look at the traffic in the area as well. So the firefighters are saying that no injuries at this point that they're aware of, so that is great news. Also, they've been hampered a bit by walls they believe are going to collapse. So they've had to stay out of what they call a collapse zone. And I want to thank Marcel, who's a 20-year veteran of the fire department, for giving me this information, and he's the cameraman. But I want to come out and give you a wide shot because that's Sunset, and Sunset is shut down. And as you tilt down, now that's Highland. So go to the left, Marcel, just show them Highland. And what's happening is, it's really hard to get around to this area. Highland is open, but you can't take Sunset to the east, and it's just a lot of flow onto Highland. You can get by on Highland, but Highland's a highly traveled stretch going north-south, and with all this activity and then taking all the traffic off of Sunset, trying to detour it around, you're going to have much heavier than normal traffic through this area. You don't want to be on Sunset. Hollywood Boulevard, Highland, just expect the Hollywood area to really have heavier than normal traffic. Let's go back into the structure there. Highland southbound is really the issue. The northbound side isn't too bad, but right in the heart of Hollywood, we're going to have a lot of traffic. So we are seeing a lot more white smoke. That is certainly good. I just mentioned to you the issue with the collapse of the roof and one of the forward or the front walls of the structure, I think, what they were concerned about. So they had to sort of stay away from that area or out of that area for the protection of the firefighters. But they're really pouring a lot of water on this. Just know at this point we have no reported injuries. It reported as a vacant theater of some type. And avoid the Hollywood area if you can. Traffic-wise, it's going to be really tough. And there is really a lot of smoke in the air. It's hard to get away from that smoke. It's laying down over Hollywood and especially up into the Hollywood Hills. All right, copy that. Why don't we go around and take a look at the south and east side? And as we continue to follow this fire that city firefighters are battling here in Hollywood, right off of Sunset and Las Palmas, that's the area right there they talked about a possible collapse. They were concerned about that wall right there collapsing. And so they sort of had to back off from being in what they called a collapse zone if that should fall. So we're trying to get an additional assessment of that. It's taking a look here and see what we hear from the fire department. It appears though the fires, we get this look, which would be on the east side, that it has been contained to the building in question that we believe is a vacant theater. Can we read that sign right there? Yeah, I'm not sure that one. What about to the left? Is there a sign there to the left? Yeah, we believe it says Hollywood Playhouse. So we do believe it was vacant. I think there might be a sign to the left. I'm not sure. Right there. Is that a sign? Space available. So we believe it's a Hollywood Playhouse. It's tough to get information sometimes. Hold it right here. But this angle right here gives us a really good look at the structure. And we open up a little bit. And the front of this theater that we believe. And then on the right side, you see that's an apartment building with firefighters are staged on that. Behind it is a home, and then to the left is another apartment building. As you come out a little bit wider, gives you a little perspective on where everything is. It's contained to that one theater, the Hollywood Playhouse, we believe. That's the information we have at this point. And then on the right side of your screen, again, is Sunset. Sunset shut down in both directions. And, you know, even if they knock this down, they got to overhaul the fire. Sunset's going to be shut down for quite some time. So you see the firefighters, they're coming up with a battle plan. They are concerned about the structure collapsing, and that's, you know, impairing them a little bit from getting into the areas they'd like to get more water on this. But they got it surrounded pretty good. It looks like there's as many as 4 hook and ladders up right now. And then they have a lot of water cannons coming down also from firefighters on the adjacent structures. We don't think it'll spread to any of those structures. And it looks like I'm getting an update, so I'll be right back with you. Go ahead. All right, appreciate that. So we just got a little update. According to the information we have, the Hollywood Playhouse was built in 1905. It's fairly apparent, though, that it's been upgraded since then, just by taking a look at the structure when we could see it. We got a lot of smoke now. But that we do have confirmation now that it's the Hollywood Playhouse. It's a 220-seat theater, but it was vacant. It was not being used. Not certain exactly when it was actually seating people, and they were using it for events, but our information is that it was vacant. We're going to go back around. What we're looking at right now is the east side, just to give you a little perspective, and we're moving around in the helicopter. We're going to the south, then we're going to go back to the west. Some of the smoke sort of moved to the front, to that area where we were. We could see the front of the building in the area they were concerned about for a collapse. You can also see that portion. That portion of the structure has collapsed. The roof has collapsed for the most part. That wall, I'm not certain if they're concerned about that or not, but now you get a little bit of a look through the smoke on the right side of your screen there and the front of the theater. We're looking at the south side now, and we're moving to the west, so we'll be looking at the west side here in a moment. But we see a lot more white smoke. Access has definitely been an issue. The collapse of the roof and the possible collapse of some of the walls has been a definite issue as well, for them to really get into position where they can knock this down quickly. But the real good news is no reported injuries at this point in time, and they're able to contain it, from what we can tell, to just the theater. The fire is not spread to the home in the back, to the west, or the apartment structure, and firefighters are in position, if they see any embers, catch another structure on fire to really knock that down quickly. And so I think it's good news. There's still a lot of smoke in Hollywood, nothing like it was earlier. They're really starting to gain control on this fire. We don't see much in the way of any black smoke whatsoever. We really don't see a lot in the way of flame. There's still a lot of fuel in there to burn, though. When a roof collapses, you know, it burns for a long time, and that's what we're seeing. And there's a good wide shot. There's a Hollywood freeway on the top of your screen. You really can't make it out. The Hollywood sign is up there on the top, on top of Mount Lee there. But it gives you an idea what the smoke did. It's not as bad as it was earlier, that smoke, but certainly if you live in the Hollywood Hills on the Coinca Pass, you're going to know there's a fire. You're going to know there's something going on. And then the Sunset is shut down. It will be for a while. Go to the left a little bit, and then tilt up on Highland. Highland southbound, you see how bad it is? And I don't know if it goes all the way to the Hollywood freeway, but Hollywood Boulevard and Highland, it's just going to be a mess. So you really want to try and reroute yourself, get away from Highland, get away from Hollywood Boulevard, definitely get away from Sunset. But there's a lot of congestion on the side streets and the surface streets here in Hollywood. Just keep that in mind. And just beware, Sunset won't be reopened for a long time, even after this is knocked down. There's a lot of resources that staged on Sunset. They're going to overhaul this fire. It'll just take a lot of time before they reopen Sunset. But, you know, mostly encouraging news, good news. Looks like they're going to be able to contain it to just that theater. The theater will be a total loss. We believe it was vacant, the Hollywood Playhouse. And we are seeing at this point in time that nothing but white smoke, and firefighters really starting to get a handle. So good news here from Hollywood, at least as far as the potential of this fire to do any more damage is concerned, and the fact that we have no reported injuries. No update yet on how this may have started. That could take some time. The fire did break out just before 9 o'clock this morning, so we're looking at about an hour since the fire broke out, and they still have a lot of work to do before we get a knockdown. 3 minutes to what? Is it a cold open? Is the anchor going to toss? How's it going to run? So it's a cold open to me, and how much time do I have? 30 seconds. And just sig out? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Do you have, yeah, we probably don't have enough time to re-rack some of the flames, huh? No, probably only have 2 minutes. Yeah, probably 2 now. We have 2 minutes. Okay, great. We're going to roll some of our own footage from here, the fire, or what it looked like earlier. Copy, 1 minute. Yeah, after we do this hit and we do just the streaming, we'll talk about Highland slow all the way off the 101. That's got hit the worst. We won't have time in this hit, 30-second hit, though. All right, copy. Oh, it's looking much better now, huh? And I'm Scott Reif at Air 7 HD over a fire that broke out in Hollywood just before 9 o'clock this morning at 1435 North Las Palmas. This is the Hollywood Playhouse. We understand it's vacant, but it is a total loss. We're going to show you some footage of what it looked like when we first got on scene this morning. The fire was raging. The roof collapsed, made it very difficult for firefighters to really get around this and contain it. We'll come back out to a live shot. Looks like firefighters starting to get a handle on this. From Air 7 HD, I'm Scott Reif, ABC7 Eyewitness News. Hold on 1 second, Christina. You're asking me about how Franklin is for the drive? We'd have to look up there. It's sort of obscured a little bit. Franklin's not going to be as bad as, say, Hollywood Boulevard. I think you'll be okay. It's just going to be a little worse, but it's not going to be horrible. Go ahead, Christina. Yeah, I think that'd be best. Okay. Okay, sounds good. And if you're still with us on the web, we are covering this fire in Hollywood that broke out about an hour ago. Firefighters really getting a handle on it. It's the Hollywood Playhouse. We understand it was vacant. It's 1435 North Las Palmas in Hollywood, really right in the heart of downtown Hollywood. Now, Sunset is that street right on the top of your screen, runs east-west. That is shut down in both directions. You see firefighters are staged here. The fire looks good. It really looks like they're starting to get a handle on it. No reported injuries yet. That's great news. And at this point in time, we don't really have any idea how this may have started. There'll be an investigation into that. But I want to show you some of the traffic conditions and what to avoid in Hollywood if you can. That's Highland there. And as we tilt up with the camera, we're tilting up to the north. You're going to see on the top of your screen there, Highland is slow right off the 101 freeway. Tilt up a little bit further, and you'll see the 101 there up into the Coanga Pass. So Highland is the drive to avoid. Northbound's not too bad, but southbound Highland is just a mess. They've diverted all the traffic off on Sunset onto the surface streets. Hollywood Boulevard going to be slower than normal. Just beware. Some east-west. Beverly's going to be tough, taking up some of the slack with Sunset being shut down in both directions. It looks a lot better than it did earlier if you push back into the fire there, Marcel. We're seeing a lot of white smoke. You know, one of the reasons it was difficult for firefighters to knock this down quickly certainly was access. It's a very small little street off of Sunset, and then it's so close to an apartment building to the south, a home to the west, and then another apartment building to the north. It was hard for them to get some of the resources in there quickly. And then when they did, the roof collapsed. And so they got on scene. They really thought maybe they'd fight it from the inside out, but it took off. It busted through the roof. The roof collapsed. There was concern about one of the walls actually collapsing. And because of that, it's really taken them some time to get a handle on this. It appears right now they're getting so much water on it that there are no exposures. They're going to be able to stop this fire from spreading to that big tree there. That was a concern to the apartment building to the south, which is on the right side of your screen, a home to the left, or to the bottom of your screen, which would be to the west, and another apartment building. A lot of smoke coming off this. It's been a very smoky fire coming up into an aversion layer and laying out over the city of Hollywood and Hollywood Hills. But they are getting a handle on it. It does appear the crews on scene will be able to contain the fire to what we believe is a Hollywood Playhouse, a structure that had been there, we understand, since 1905, but I believe it's been renovated several times, or at least once since then when we looked at the building. But it was vacant. From what we understand, it was not being used recently. It was vacant. It also could have been a previous burn. There was some information that they had responded to a fire at this location once before in the past. So we'll try and get more information as time goes on. The good news, once again, here in Hollywood is they're starting to get a handle on it. It's been a tough battle. It's been a smoking battle, but no reported injuries. That certainly is great news. So they'll have to get an entrance team inside the Playhouse once the fire's knocked down, so they could take a look around and make certain no one was trapped. But there's certainly no indication that that was the case at this point in time, and they're reporting, at least for now, no injuries. So good news as far as that is concerned. It looks like we're going to leave. We're going to have some fuel requirements. We got to go back to the airport and get some more gas. But we appreciate you being with us. We do believe this fire is going to be knocked down sometime soon, though, because things look very encouraging. Remember, though, traffic in Hollywood is going to be a mess. If you live in Hollywood, try and get away from Sunset, try and get away from Highland, Hollywood Boulevard, get further south if you possibly can, south of Hollywood. But Sunset, major east-west thoroughfare, shut down. It will be for some time. So, Christina, just let me know when we're clear to break for a fuel. Got it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I think someone's mic is hot. No, it's the IP radio making that noise. All right, our minute is up. I think we're cleared. We can head back. Thank you, Marcel.